Today I will be reacting to a top self-development YouTuber on trying out Da Vinci's insane daily routine and seeing what happened. I'm pretty excited about this because I am a self-development blogger and YouTuber as well at a much smaller scale. I've been doing this for several years and I've studied thousands of successful people, including Da Vinci. I read his biography, fantastic biography by the Walter Isaacson version. He's a great biographer. So let's just get started. I love to see what he thinks and kind of pick apart what's accurate, what's not, and I'm just curious. By the way, I like to listen to things at 2 times speed. Hope you don't mind, but that's just how I consume things. I've gotten used to it now.
Study the lives of very successful people from throughout history. I don't think that's very unique of me. It seems like a very common thing actually for us to try and understand what made exceptional people exceptional. I think it's a deep-seated human desire to want to leave an impact that far outlasts our time on this earth. However, this whole concept of studying people's lives and trying to emulate them can be a very slippery slope, but we will come back to that a little bit later. I'm currently living in Milan right now, and this year marks 500 years since Leonardo da Vinci was doing his thing in Italy, and so I'm seeing his face and his name absolutely everywhere. And so it occurred to me it might be interesting to try his daily routine. I mean, the guy.
Well, first and foremost, I think the one difference between him and me is he has fantastic B-roll, and in this case it was authentic. I think the last one I watched was like 100% stock video, but it does keep you more engaged if it's relevant.
Guy was a genius. Clearly he was doing something right. So I think there's a good chance I'll learn something from this whole experience. But here's the thing. I was doing some research about this, and it turns out his daily routine was ridiculous. And so I'm telling you right now, I'm giving this a very low probability chance of actually being successful, and I think you can understand why in a second. A lot of famous people throughout history have had kind of strange sleep habits. Charles Dickens was famous for always sleeping with his head facing north because he believed that if he aligned himself with the Earth's magnetic fields, it would boost creativity. But what Leonardo da Vinci did was a lot more extreme than that. He's well known for doing what is known as polyphasic sleep, more specifically the Uberman sleep cycle, which is basically a.
So yeah, Beethoven was also a person who was very religious, and so he had his own ideas on creativity, and he stretched what's physically possible playing the piano because he thought like, well, God, this is what God told me to do. Like, you're telling me it's impossible to play? That's not true. And yeah, I think I've heard a lot about Uberman and stuff like that. I think there was a phase back in like 2010 where it just got very popular, and then it resurfaced in like 2016 ish. And just because a lot of people do it doesn't mean it's really effective or works. Um, I do believe in biennial. Uh, I don't know if that's the right term, but basically taking naps. Um, so back when it was popular, I watched a lot of YouTube videos on the science about it and people who tried it out. Basically, you're doing the weird stuff like 20-minute naps every 4 hours. There's just like different levels of it. There's like super Uberman, and essentially, when you add it all up, the time it takes ends up being less sleep, but you feel more rejuvenated. And like after like some of the scientific videos like deconstructed it, I think it was like just debunked as like bollocks for the most part, because while it's most efficient, that's not how we were wired to sleep. Um, we're not wired to sleep how we do, which is just like at night. I think our ancestors had more of a biennial thing, or even like a thing where we would wake up in the middle of the night and then do a little bit and then go back to sleep, just because like once the sun set, like there's very little light. So um, I do agree that our modern sleep cycle is not the most ideal. It's kind of constrained, but I don't think going to Uberman extreme is the most effective either.
A 20-minute nap every 4 hours, which equates to a grand total of 2 hours per day. 2 hours of sleep per day. This cannot possibly go well, okay? The main benefits to this seem to be that, first of all, you have way more time awake. Let's say, for example.
Also, I don't recall this being part of Da Vinci's biography, so I hopefully he did not just extract this from some viral article on Da Vinci, because there's a lot of fake news, fake facts online.
you live to the age of 72 and you sleep 8 hours a night, that would turn out to be 24 years of your life sleeping. But if you do this Uberman sleep cycle and only sleep 2 hours a day, you win back 18 of those years, or 3/4 of the time.
Yeah, it's clearly going to be, you're setting yourself up for failure. Like 2 hours of sleep a day, just off the bat, like scientists would tell you, you're not going to rationally ever make that possible. Unless you're one of those 0.01% people who need very little sleep to function. There are like people genetically like that. Um, I think back when I did my research on it, I think the best way is not like this 20 minutes off, 4 hours on type of thing. Um, yeah, usually when people try that, they succeed for a few days or maybe a few weeks, and then they just crash. Neil Strauss tried it, did not go well. I think just taking one nap during the day is very beneficial, but also trying like you could try something like a 4 or 5 hours uh, of sleep, and then like wake up for like 30 minutes, and then 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and then do another nap during the day. Like doesn't break up your routine that much, but that's the type of stuff that could be helpful.
Assuming you started from the day you were born, which would not be the case. But anyway, you get the idea. Another one of the major benefits that I was reading about is that human beings seem to go through a short boosted phase after sleep of productivity and creativity and focus. So in theory, if you're taking 6 naps throughout the day, you're maximizing the amount of time that you're in this state. In theory, Da Vinci is said to have done something very similar to this, about 15 or 20 minutes every 4 hours. And he did this apparently for years of his life, believe it or not. Let me be clear, there is really not a lot of research showing that polyphasic sleep is better than monophasic sleep, which is basically just sleeping at night. So do not try this at home. Or if you do not blame me. Instead,
Yeah, back to my point about naps. Like, there's a reason why there's a lot of countries in the world who still have siestas during the day.
allow yourself to be entertained by my probable descent into hell. Without further ado, this is my best attempt at Leonardo da Vinci's daily routine. Oh God, here we go. Good morning. It is 10:35 a.m. I've spent most of this morning so far doing boring morning stuff that nobody cares about, but I am going to do some journaling now. So, as many of us know, Leonardo da Vinci would write backwards. I think it's kind of funny that nobody really knows why he did it. Some people think it was to keep his hand clean because he was left-handed, or to make it more difficult for other people to read what he was writing. Whatever the case, he wrote backwards, so I'm gonna write backwards. I am an idiot, so I had to look up how to do this because I don't know how to do this. I'm gonna do a couple of tests and see if I can get a hang of this. Jesus, how the S's are so difficult. Okay, my first attempt. Leonardo da Vinci seemed to be a huge proponent of journaling, which I think is fantastic. I've spoken about how important it is for me to get my ideas out of my brain and onto paper or onto some other medium. Doing this allowed his work to far outlast him. I mean, think about it. If he didn't write down his thoughts, then we wouldn't even know about it. I have spent like half an hour on this one damn sentence. Let's see how this looks in a mirror, but this is what it looks like.
So, regardless of why he does it, I think journaling, his point about journaling is very big. People say, oh, well, there's computers. You can just use Evernote to journal. And you can, I do. But writing things down by hand, tactilely, it drills it into your brain more. You can spatially draw and visualize things in a way that you can't always in your brain or typed out. Um, and there's been memory studies done where just writing it down drills it more into your brain than like typing it out. Um, as far as potential reasons why he does it, like maybe it's to prevent someone from deciphering, but I doubt it. Like, it take you like a few minutes to figure it out, but it's not some like uncrackable code. So my theory is like perhaps it just exercised a different part of your brain to do it that way. Um, but interesting how he's just emulating all of it.
Like, I had to use this website where I could kind of type in my message and it would give it to me backwards. That's what I just copied down. Oh my God, it's kind of creepy actually to look back at it like this, and it makes perfect sense and it looks normal-ish. I'm gonna do more journaling like this. Wow. I feel like another way I could journal is if I just write like this, but this is gonna be very complicated. Oh, this is harder. Oh no. Okay, that's worse. That is considerably worse. All right, so let's talk for a second about what my schedule's gonna look like. My focus here is to be as productive creatively as possible. It seemed like art was a huge motivator for Leonardo da Vinci. So beyond my periodic naps, I'm going to be spending as much of the rest of my time as possible video editing, writing, reading, and painting. I'm gonna pretend I'm working on masterpieces and that fart jokes don't still make me laugh. All right, it is time for...
Now that's very interesting. He decided to use his free time like Da Vinci did with more artistic endeavors like painting and so forth. Now I think that's important because for me I don't intentionally set out to do that, and some days I go, some weeks I go without ever really employing that side of my brain. It would just be numbers and data and stuff in the day, and then unless you make time for it, that part of your brain can start to dwindle.
For my first nap. I'm not much of a napper, so we'll have to see how this goes. The schedule just makes me laugh. I just feel like I'm 3 years old again. 20 minutes is super quick. I'm gonna have to learn how to fall asleep super fast to just make it happen, take advantage of that time. Otherwise, you just miss those 20 minutes, you know? It takes me a while.
Yeah, I mean, some of this stuff is just inefficient. He's just trying it out to try it out, um, and just like plowing through the lack of logic to it. Uh, Same with the writing backwards. I mean, it took him 30 minutes to write a couple sentences. I mean, that'll get better over time. And when you read the book Willpower by Roy Baumeister, and I forgot the other guy who wrote it, but when you read that book, one of the things they recommend is to do things with your left hand if you're right-handed, because that starts to build neurons in your brain that train your willpower. Uh, so maybe that's why he does it. I doubt it. It's probably something.
I'll see. So there is definitely a community of people out there that do this. I was doing some research on the adaptation period that is required to kind of incorporate this into your life, and it's pretty intense. I feel like starting to fall asleep when the alarm went off, or maybe I slept for 5 or 10 minutes. I actually feel good. It was kind of rejuvenating. I read that.
Yeah, so once again, that's like with his left-handed writing. It's going to take him time to build up into that. And so that's an issue as well. But I guess over time he'll get better at falling asleep quickly. But once again, it's just like the logic behind it. It's like you're, I guess, a full-time YouTuber or something, so you're able to do that. But how would someone with a 9 to 5 fit that into their job? They can't. Um, but I think something like a nap during the day is possible for some people. Like they could fit it into a lunch break.
That it can take weeks to fully adapt, and that you have to pass through this kind of zombie phase where your cognitive ability is just not optimal.
And the whole 20-minute thing just doesn't make sense from how the brain sleep cycles work. You know, you need more time than that to awake at an opportune time where you're not in the middle of a sleep cycle.
Okay, I was not able to fall asleep this time, but we still get to lie down for a bit, and I guess now it's back to work. Not only that, but it seems like the success of a system like this is very much based on being super strict and consistent with it. I'm feeling a little bit drowsy right now, so hopefully this nap will be the boost that I need to keep things going. I couldn't fall asleep. A schedule that you create for yourself has to fit around the things that are most important to you. The things.
I love you just experimenting with this, and if it's not working, he's documenting it and letting us know. Um, but yeah, I mean, what'd you expect?
That you want to focus on. I mean, that's the whole point, right? And it's easy to get carried away by obligations or other things people impose on you. And I think that's how many of us end up with kind of a schedule or a routine or a lifestyle that doesn't actually fit us. Each time I go to bed and then get back up, I'm a little bit more disoriented. It's kind of like dunking your consciousness in and out of water. I will say I am seeing the benefits of lying down for a little bit. It feels like it contributes to a bit of a boost of energy and creativity right afterwards, but I'm a little bit afraid that this is going to lead to diminishing returns. I got really hungry.
Yeah, I'm done with the whole sleep thing. Let's move on from it. I hope the whole video is not on the sleep thing. You need more time than 20 minutes to really get into their sleep cycle.
So I'm eating a spinach frittata. How did we end up at this point? My ability to get any meaningful work done, and more than anything, stay focused, has greatly decreased over the last year.
The sleep thing is just taking up the video. Like, copy Da Vinci's diet. I mean, you're eating. Let's go into the, copying his diet. What did he eat?
Hours, so I'm gonna switch tack, and I'm gonna paint. He's pretty well known for doing that, so a few days ago, I bought some art materials, and I got a lot of time on my hands, so that's what I'm gonna do now. So I want to paint.
What does he do for a living? He just has all this free time to fit Da Vinci's life into his.
That I took while I was in Florence. It's not anything special, really, but I like it. Florence is in a region of Italy called Tuscany, which is where Da Vinci is from. That's also where the Italian language is originally from. Although, fun fact, the accent from there is very strange. They don't pronounce C's. So Coca-Cola is Coca-Cola, basically, with the local accent over there. Not like you needed to know that, but I felt like sharing. And look, you're choosing to be here with me at this odd hour of the day. Let's get cracking. If you set aside how bizarre it would be.
Now, Da Vinci did not just paint and do artistic stuff. He was also incredibly detail-oriented in studying all these random things about science. And he was just so diligent with studying certain natural phenomenon that he discovered things that uh, sometimes others didn't really discover decades afterwards, such as how the musculature of the human anatomy worked, or how a hummingbird was able to flap his wings and stay afloat, and how that flapping was different from the flapping of a bird. And it wasn't magical, he wasn't a genius, he was just so diligent with studying nature and the things that made him curious that he eventually figured it out. So that's another thing he could have modeled. Um, for me, if I were to do this experiment, I wouldn't really want to look at birds that much. I mean, it might actually be kind of fun for a while, but um, my interest would kind of I would use that same intent and do something I was more curious about. Um, and for me, I'm currently really interested in how musicians succeed and how YouTubers succeed. So I'd probably drill in on that. And I've already drilled into death on YouTube success. It's really just about watch time and thumbnails and titles, if you had to summarize it.
To actually live like this, it was kind of cool to have all this extra time to work. Then the sun came up and I realized it comes at a cost. When I'm really tired, random stuff starts sounding a lot funnier, dude. I'll give you an example. The human foot is a masterpiece of engineering and a work of art. Leonardo da Vinci, genius, with a thing for feet. I'm feeling pretty brain dead right now, and just in general super scattered. Usually I have a lot of motivation to do stuff, and I'm not feeling any of it right now. I figured I'd go to the supermarket, get a few groceries, get out of the apartment for a little bit. My ability to speak Italian right now is at like a 1.5 out of 10. I had just such a jumble of words come out of my mouth when I was at the register trying to pay. I just feel sleep deprived, and honestly, that's exactly what's happening. I mean, the naps are not doing much. Who would want to live like this? Honestly, this is the opposite of productive. This doesn't make any sense. 15 minutes ago.
As expected, his lack of sleep is now consumed the video, and he's clearly suffering here. I mean, what do you expect on 2 hours a day? I don't think Da Vinci did that. If I had to bet on it, I don't think he did that. Um, I think if you're gonna do Uberman like that, the total sum should be like at least 6 hours, preferably more. So, you know, I would have tripled that, like, uh, and decreased the frequency of the naps in between, and just extended the duration of the naps.
I felt like crap, but I threw on a Mr. Bean movie, and now all of a sudden I feel all this motivation to paint. So I'm on this sort of weird emotional roller coaster right now, okay? Yeah. It was becoming very apparent to me that I was no longer capable of any sort of high quality or deep work whatsoever. And so as the night approached once again, I decided to bring things to a close. I'm not sure what Leonardo would say. My man Leo. Woo! In total, I did this schedule for about 36 hours, 2 days. I would have liked to keep going, and I think I could have kept going, but at what cost? It's been a week, so I've had some time to kind of reflect on things, and I look back on those days that I dedicated to doing this as a little bit emotionally turbulent, and I read some of the stuff that I wrote, and it just doesn't feel like it was written with clarity, if anything.
Yeah, because your insomnia basically consumed you. You were functioning off fumes of like what 2 hours of sleep a day, and obviously you can't do any deep work or even process normal thoughts with such a lack of sleep. So it consumed the whole video too. I was hoping for a lot more in terms of Da Vinci's routine. He did a lot more than this bizarre sleep routine, which may have been pulled from a fake article. I mean, I don't recall reading about that in his biography. Um, yeah, I would love to see a version 2 of this video where I think it focused more on just the sleep and then, you know, journaling and painting in your free time. There's a lot more things that Da Vinci did in his daily routine. Um, so yeah.
This gave me a lot of appreciation from a very boring, very normal sleep schedule. I slept like a rock for at least 10 hours and woke up a new man. And just enthusiastic and positive, and basically just myself again. It felt like I was able to glimpse the value that Da Vinci placed on time. His approach doesn't quite work for me, but I did see the power of napping and how useful a tool it can be for if you're going through kind of a dip in energy. By the way, here is where I'm at with the painting I was working on. It's not quite done yet. If you want to see the final results, I might post it on Instagram. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I think many of us idolize famous or powerful people either now or from throughout history. And that's fine. I think there's a lot we can all learn from these people. But no matter how hard you try, you'll just never get the same results because inevitably the circumstances are different. The cultural context or access to resources, even things like your physiology. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is that it's a beautiful thing to be curious and experiment with things, but just don't force it, Okay, his sleep schedule doesn't work for me, but there's so many other things that we can all learn from this genius. I guess I'm advocating for cherry picking, figuring out what works for you. He said learning never.
So I'm gonna stop it right there because he's basing all these assertions off the sleep thing, which may have been fake news to begin with. So that's the issue here. I don't think Da Vinci even did this routine. Um, and he's basing like, oh, I don't have the physiology to maintain a sleep routine. Now, I think he has some good points about cherry picking what successful people did. There is some truth to that. I just finished Arnold Schwarzenegger's biography, incredible story, and yeah, to a degree, I was thinking something similar. Like, I don't have the physiology to be a bodybuilder like him, but we all have different gifts, and there's definitely a lot of things you could take from his story about persistence, dreaming big, and so forth. Even if you don't have the physiology to take the outlet he did to come from Austria to Europe and get his green card in the USA through bodybuilding. Um, but I think some of his assertions may be a little off base because of the foundation it was built on.
Exhausts the mind, and I absolutely love this mindset. I think that it's just true. I think learning things has given me so much energy. Let's not forget that the internet and everything that it has to offer didn't exist.
I would also recommend him to just jump to the last chapter of Walter Isaacson's biography on Da Vinci, because there's a he summarizes it very well. He basically lists out these like principles for success that Da Vinci has. I wrote a whole article on it, and I there's a section where I summarized his summary. And yeah, while you may not be able to emulate him, I think there's a lot more things that he did. There's a lot more areas of his success that you can actually I'm gonna search it up right now. Let me just search up my own article. There's a lot more to him than just his sleep cycle, and um, I think there's a lot more you can cherry pick from him than just like his sleep cycle. Like, look at this. Be relentlessly curious. Seek knowledge even just for pleasure. Observe things acutely. Begin with the details. See things unseen. Mix theater with fantasy. Go down rabbit holes. Respect facts. Be a perfectionist. Be fearless of changing your beliefs. Avoid silos. Let your reach exceed your grasp. Create for yourself, not just your patrons. And then I go into detail on why and how Leo did all these things. Executing your vision requires a team. Uh, his most consistent work was in anatomy. Be obsessive. Take notes on paper. Uh, so yeah, there's a lot you can still learn from Da Vinci, even if his sleep routine isn't.
In his day, I think. I'm happy to thank Skillshare for sponsoring this video and this channel and giving me the opportunity to do very strange experiments like this one. Your physiology. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is that it's a beautiful thing to be curious and experiment with things, but just don't force it, you know? Okay, his sleep schedule doesn't work for me, but there's so many other things that we can all learn from this genius. I guess I'm advocating for cherry picking.
Yeah, yeah, and so I think well, a great video. I think there's so much more he could have done here with the things he experimented with that Da Vinci did, and then even as he ends it here, he could have come in with a lot thorough understanding of what things you can actually be curious about with Da Vinci, and then elaborate them here. But it seems like he doesn't know himself, which it happens. But I think starting with my article on Da Vinci, which you can find at willyoulaugh.com/Leonardo dash Vinci, uh, could be very useful. Um, yeah, yeah, brilliant, brilliant guy with a lot of crazy stuff that he did. Um, so thanks for watching. See you later.